He was left to die in the rain, now he calls me father. You never expect the most important relationship in your life to begin with a knock you never heard. It was raining that night. Not the kind of rain that comes and goes, but the steady, cold rain that soaks through walls and skin alike. The kind of rain that makes the world feel distant and unkind. When I opened my gate the next morning, I saw something small lying near the entrance. At first, I thought it was just a bundle of cloth someone had thrown away. Then it moved. Barely. It was a newborn puppy. His eyes were still closed. His body was so tiny that he fit entirely within both of my hands. He hadn't even opened his eyes to see the world yet, and the world had already abandoned him. The rain had not stopped all night. His fur was damp. His body was cold. He wasn't crying loudly anymore, just making small, weak sounds, like a fading signal asking if anyone was listening. If I had opened the gate 10 minutes later, he might not have been breathing. In that moment, there was no decision to debate. There are situations in life where hesitation costs a life. I bent down, picked him up gently, and carried him inside. His body was freezing. Not just cold, but the kind of cold that seeps into the bones. I wrapped him immediately in a warm towel and held him close to my chest, letting my body heat transfer to him. He didn't struggle. He didn't resist. He simply stayed still, as if surrendering to whatever fate was next. I warmed milk carefully, checking the temperature twice before feeding him slowly with a dropper. At first, he didn't react. Then, instinct took over. He began to drink. Weakly. Slowly. But he drank. That small act, that fragile instinct to survive, felt like a promise. For the next few days, my life revolved around him. Every few hours, I fed him. I changed the towels. I made sure he stayed warm. I barely slept. At night, I placed his small box beside my bed. Every time he made the slightest sound, I woke up instantly. Newborn puppies are fragile. Especially ones abandoned in the rain. His breathing sometimes felt uneven. His tiny body would tremble even under layers of cloth. More than once, I found myself just sitting beside him, watching his chest rise and fall, afraid it might stop. But each morning, he was still there. Still breathing. Still fighting quietly. After several days, the trembling decreased. His cry became stronger. His appetite improved. Life was slowly choosing him back. I took him to the veterinary clinic once he was stable enough to travel. The doctor examined him carefully, checking his heartbeat, his temperature, his reflexes. "You brought him in just in time," the doctor said. Those words stayed with me. Just in time. He received vaccinations appropriate for his age. We monitored his growth carefully. Every gram of weight he gained felt like a victory. And then, about a month later, something magical happened. He opened his eyes. I was there when it happened. One morning, I leaned closer to his little box, as I did every day. Instead of closed lids, two small, curious eyes looked back at me. He blinked slowly, adjusting to the light. And then he looked directly at me. That was the first time he saw the world. And I was the first face he saw in it. People say dogs choose their owners. But sometimes, they simply recognize the one who stayed. From that day forward, he followed me everywhere. When he learned to walk properly, his steps were clumsy at first. He would wobble slightly, overestimating his balance, bumping gently into furniture. Each time he fell, he would look up at me, not in fear, but in confirmation. As if asking, "You're still there, right?" And I always was. As he grew stronger, our days became lighter. He began to truly play. Tugging at the corner of my slippers. Chasing shadows. Barking softly at his own reflection. But what touched me most was the way he slept. Every night, no matter how far he wandered during the day, he returned to sleep near my feet. Not because he had to. Because he wanted to. There is a kind of trust that forms not from words, but from consistency. I was there when he was freezing. I was there when he could not see. I was there when survival was uncertain. To him, I was not just a caretaker. I was safety. As months passed, he grew into a beautiful dog. His coat became thick and shiny. His body filled out with strength and health. The fragile newborn abandoned at my gate transformed into a confident, joyful companion. We developed routines. Morning walks became our quiet ritual. The world felt calmer at sunrise. He would walk beside me, sometimes slightly ahead, sometimes brushing against my leg as if checking in. Neighbors began recognizing him. Children would smile and wave. But at home, he was different. He wasn't just playful. He was affectionate in a way that felt deeply intentional. If I sat down after a long day, he would rest his head gently on my knee. If I was quiet for too long, he would approach slowly, sit in front of me, and look up. Not demanding. Just present. Over time, I stopped thinking of him as a rescued dog. He became family. There is something profound about raising a life from its most fragile state. I watched him learn to trust. I watched him discover the joy of simple things: a toy, a ray of sunlight, the sound of my footsteps returning home. And somewhere along the way, something changed inside me too. Caring for him softened parts of me I didn't know were hard. It reminded me that responsibility is not a burden when it is rooted in love. Years pass quietly. He is no longer the tiny creature wrapped in a towel. He stands tall now, strong, beautiful. But sometimes, when he falls asleep beside me, I remember that rainy morning. I remember how small he was. How close he was to not surviving. And I realized something important. I did not just save a puppy that day. I became a father. Not by blood. Not by obligation. But by choice. He looks at me now with eyes full of certainty. In his world, I am constant. In his world, I am home. And perhaps that is the most sacred thing we can ever become for another living being. A home. People often ask if rescuing a dog changes your life. They imagine inconvenience, responsibility, expense. What they don't understand is this. Sometimes, the one you rescue ends up rescuing you. From indifference. From loneliness. From forgetting how powerful simple kindness can be. That rainy morning could have ended differently. The world could have remained cold. But instead, it became warmer. Because one small life was given the chance to open his eyes. And when he did, he chose to look at me. Even now, when he rests his head against my chest, I can still feel the weight of that first fragile body in my hands. The cold. The silence. The quiet fight to live. And I know this. Some bonds are not accidents. They begin in the rain. They grow in patience. And they become love. A love that feels, in every way, like that between a father and a son.